Suzuki builds some of the most bulletproof engines in history, but they have also sold sport bikes that feel slower than they look. And if you do not know the difference, you are the one who pays for it. Today, we are separating the legendary icons from the outdated failures. From proven performance machines like the GSX-R to aging designs that struggle to keep up. These are the 4 worst and 6 best Suzukis of all time. So you know exactly what to avoid and what is actually worth your money. So let us start with the 4 worst Suzuki motorcycles of all time. Number 4, Suzuki GSX250R. There is a difference between playing it safe and simply falling behind. The Suzuki GSX250R lands right in that uncomfortable gap. On paper, it made perfect sense. A beginner-friendly sport bike wearing the GSX badge, a name built on speed and dominance. But once riders got on it, the reality did not match the promise. Performance is where things unravel. Its 248 cubic centimeter parallel twin produces about 25 horsepower. That sounds fine until you compare it to the Yamaha YZF-R3 and the Kawasaki Ninja 400, both pushing well over 40. That is not a small difference. It is a completely different experience. Acceleration feels flat, highway passes take effort, and the bike never feels eager. Pricing only made the decision harder. New, it sat around $5,000. Today, used models range from roughly $3,500 to just over $4,000. But for a little more, buyers could step into far stronger machines. Technically, it plays things too cautiously. Nearly 390 pounds, basic suspension, soft brakes, and no modern electronics. Owners say it best, reliable, but forgettable. And that is the real issue. It never gives you a reason to fall in love. If this is the kind of truth most channels avoid, and you actually want to understand what you are buying instead of just following the hype, hit that like button, drop a hype, and subscribe. That is what tells us to keep breaking down bikes the way riders actually experience them, not the way manufacturers market them. The GSX250R looks like a sport bike, but ride it and the illusion fades, underpowered, overweight, and all style, no substance. That disconnect pushes riders towards something simpler and more honest, like the next machine, which trades fake sportiness for raw character. Number 3, Suzuki Boulevard S40. This machine traces its roots back to the Savage from the 1980s. And that is not just history, it is the entire story. Because by the time it was still being sold in the late 2010s, almost nothing had truly evolved. Start with the engine. A 652 cubic centimeter air-cooled single cylinder making about 30 horsepower. On paper, that sounds manageable. On the road, it tells a different story. At highway speeds, the vibration becomes constant. The power band feels narrow, and the bike never quite settles in. It feels busy, not relaxed. Now compare that to something like the Honda Rebel 500 or the Kawasaki Vulcan S, smoother engines, stronger acceleration, and a level of refinement that makes this bike feel decades older. Pricing only made the gap clearer. It ended production around $5,800. Today, used models sit between roughly $2,000 and $3,500. Affordable, yes, but not competitive. Technically, it is frozen in time. Carburetor fueling, basic suspension, minimal safety features. Owners often say the same thing, charming at first, but tiring quickly. And that is the real issue. It does not grow with you, it holds you back. The Boulevard S40 is honest in a way the GSX250R never was. But honesty alone does not fix everything. That big single-cylinder heartbeat turns into harsh vibration the moment you stretch its legs, and suddenly that simple charm starts wearing thin on longer rides. And that is where riders begin searching for the next step forward, something that keeps the cruiser feel but promises a smoother, more approachable ride. Number 2, Suzuki Intruder 250. At first glance, the Suzuki Intruder 250 looks like Suzuki finally got it right. Low stance, stretched proportions, modern styling, it gives the impression of a serious upgrade. But the deeper you go, the more that confidence starts to fade. Because beneath that bold design is a familiar problem, a motorcycle that promises more than it delivers. Power comes from a 249 cubic centimeter single-cylinder engine producing about 26 horsepower. On paper, that sounds reasonable. On the road, it feels different. Weighing over 400 pounds, the bike struggles to move with urgency. Acceleration feels muted. Highway overtakes require planning, and the overall ride lacks responsiveness. Compare that to the Yamaha V-Star 250, which delivers a smoother, more authentic feel, or even simpler rivals that feel lighter and more balanced. Pricing tells the same story. When new, it sat around $2,200 to $2,500 in its primary markets. Today, used examples range from roughly $1,100 to $1,800. That drop reflects hesitation, not demand. Owners say it best: it looks impressive, but feels underwhelming. Now I am curious, have you ever owned or ridden one of these smaller cruisers that looked great on paper but did not deliver on the road? Drop your experience in the comments, because real rider feedback is what separates spec sheets from reality, and that is exactly what we are exposing here. The Intruder 250 proves that looking like a cruiser does not make you one. It has the stance, the silhouette, the promise. But the moment you hit open road, it runs out of breath. And for riders who actually want to go somewhere, that limitation becomes impossible to ignore. So naturally, attention shifts toward the next direction, a machine built with more displacement, more presence, and the expectation of real-world usability. On paper, it looks like the logical upgrade, but as we step into the next bike, we start to see how adding more does not always mean getting better. Number 1. Suzuki GS500. This one hurts the most because it did not collapse overnight. The Suzuki GS500 faded slowly, year after year, while the world moved on without it. When it first arrived, it made sense. Simple, affordable, approachable. But Suzuki made a critical mistake. They barely evolved it. And over time, that decision caught up. Power comes from a 487 cubic centimeter AR, cooled parallel twin, making about 45 horsepower, respectable on paper. But the delivery feels dated, soft throttle response, limited top end, and a riding experience that never truly wakes up. It is stable on the highway, just not exciting. Now put it next to bikes like the Kawasaki Ninja 500R or the Honda CB500F. Smoother engines, sharper response, modern refinement. The difference is immediate. Technically, it stood still. Carb readers instead of fuel injection, air cooling while others advanced, basic brakes, soft suspension, and no real innovation. What started as simplicity became stagnation. Pricing exposed the problem. New, it hovered around $5,000. Today, used models range from about $1,500 to $3,000. Affordable, but outdated. Owners respect its durability, but quickly move on. And that is why it ranks here. Not because it was terrible, but because it was left behind. And sometimes that is the worst failure of all. After going through these machines, a pattern becomes impossible to ignore. When Suzuki misses, it is not because they lack engineering ability. It is because they build bikes that feel confused, diluted, or designed to satisfy a spec sheet instead of a rider. And that is the frustrating part, because underneath it all is a company that, at its best, does not just compete, it dominates. When Suzuki trusts its fundamentals, it builds machines people keep for decades. That contrast is why we are not stopping here, because the failures are not the story, the next machines are. The ones where everything clicks, where the balance feels right, where you remember why riders still chase older Suzukis over newer, overcomplicated ones. So now we move forward to the next chapter, not of compromise, but of clarity. The next machines are not just better, they are the reason Suzuki still matters. Number 6. Suzuki SV650. Some motorcycles win you over with speed. The SV650 wins you over with trust. Suzuki did not build this bike to chase trends. They perfected it over decades. At its core is a 645 cubic centimeter V-twin, delivering around 75 horsepower and roughly 47 pound-feet of torque. But the real story is how it delivers that power, smooth, predictable, and strong in the low and mid-range, exactly where real riders spend their time. In the city, it feels effortless. On back roads, it feels alive. It never fights you. The engineering philosophy is simple but intentional. Fuel injection, ABS, a lightweight steel trellis frame, and a wet weight just over 430 pounds. No unnecessary electronics, no gimmicks, just a machine that works every time you hit the starter. Now let us talk numbers that matter. Brand new, the SV sits around $7,500. Step into the used market, and you will find clean bikes between $4,000 and $6,000. That overlap is important because it means depreciation is low and demand stays strong year after year. Against competitors like the Yamaha MT-07, the SV does not try to be the wild one. It is smoother, more planted, and easier to live with long-term. Owner feedback says it best: "I bought it as a starter and never felt the need to upgrade." That tells you everything. The SV650 is not flashy. It is dependable. Up to this point, we have gone through machines that missed the mark and one that started to get things right. So tell me in the comments, which one surprised you the most so far, and which one do you think did not deserve to be here? And while you are there, hit like and subscribe, and let us get back to the next machine that takes things to a completely different level. Number 5. Suzuki V-Strom 650. If the SV proves Suzuki could master the street, the V-Strom 650 proves they can handle everything else. This is not a bike built for showrooms. It is built for miles. At its heart is a 645 cubic centimeter V-twin, reworked for endurance rather than excitement. It produces about 70 horsepower and strong usable torque. But the real story is durability. This engine is known to run for tens of thousands of miles with minimal issues, something long-distance riders value more than raw speed. Suzuki kept the engineering focused. You get traction control, ABS, fuel injection, and a chassis that has been refined over years of real-world testing, no overcomplication, no fragile systems, just a setup that works whether you are commuting, touring, or exploring rough back roads. At around 470 pounds wet, it is not the lightest in the class, but the upright seating position, wide handlebars, and comfortable seat make it incredibly easy to live with for hours at a time. Now let us talk value. New, it comes in between roughly $9,000 and $9,600 depending on the trim. On the used market, you will find solid examples anywhere from $4,000 to $7,500. That range matters because these bikes hold value due to their reputation. Against rivals like the Yamaha Tenere 700, it does not try to be extreme. It chooses reliability over hype. Owners say it best, it just never lets you down. And that is why people ride them for years. But that same calm, predictable nature can leave a certain type of rider wanting more. More intensity, more speed, more edge. And that craving does not get answered with versatility. It demands something far more focused. That is exactly why the spotlight shifts to the next machine. One engineered not to explore the world, but to dominate it at full throttle. Number 4. Suzuki GSX-R 1000. If the V-Strom earned respect through patience and dependability, the GSX-R 1000 built its reputation the loud way. When this motorcycle arrived in the early 2000s, it did not politely join the leader bike class. It reset the expectations. Lighter, sharper, and brutally quick, it showed the industry that superbike performance could also be balanced and rideable. Modern versions continue that philosophy. The heart of the machine is a 999 cubic centimeter inline 4, producing roughly 200 horsepower and about 87 pound-feet of torque. But the real story is how Suzuki manages that power. Their MotoGP-inspired variable valve timing system helps the engine pull smoothly in the mid-range while still screaming at high revolutions. Add traction control, selectable ride modes, launch control, and on the R model a bidirectional quick shifter, and suddenly this missile becomes remarkably manageable. Now here is where the numbers surprise people. Brand new, the GSX-R 1000 typically lands between about $16,500 and $18,500. Step into the used market and solid bikes range from roughly $8,000 up to $15,000, depending on year and condition. That gap makes it one of the most attainable true superbikes. Owners often say the same thing. It is insanely fast, but it never feels unpredictable. And that balance matters. Because while some competitors chase extremes, the GSX-R built trust at speed. The GSX-R 1000 delivers pure speed, but it is intense and demanding. Not everyone wants that. They want something they can connect with. That shift in mindset is what leads to the next direction, where performance is still there, but wrapped in something far more distinctive. Number 3. Suzuki Katana. When the original Katana arrived in the early 1980s, it did not follow the rules, it ignored them. Sharp edges, aggressive stance, futuristic presence, it looked like it came from another decade entirely. And more importantly, it proved something powerful. A motorcycle could have identity, not just performance. Bringing that back was risky, but Suzuki did not just revive it, they respected it. The modern Katana sits on the proven GSX 1000 platform, powered by a 999 cubic centimeter inline 4, rooted in the legendary K5 GSX-R engine. It produces around 150 horsepower, with a strong mid-range and a smooth, urgent top end. On real roads, it does not feel overwhelming. It feels engaging, responsive, and alive. And then there is the balance. You get traction control, ride-by-wire throttle, low RPM assist, ABS, and a refined chassis that keeps everything composed. It is modern where it needs to be, but it never loses its character. Now let us talk value, because this bike plays a different game. New, it sits between $13,500 and $14,500. Used models typically land between $9,000 and $12,000, but here is what makes it special. Early Katanas from the 1980s can climb far beyond that, sometimes doubling those numbers depending on condition. This is not normal depreciation. This is cult status. Against bikes like the Yamaha XSR 900, it does not chase retro trends or futuristic minimalism. It stands alone. Owners will tell you, I did not buy it because it made sense. I bought it because I had to have it. And that says everything. The Katana stands out in a world of sameness. It proves that design and identity still matter, that a motorcycle can be more than just numbers on a spec sheet. But even with that character, it does not fully satisfy riders chasing something bigger, something that delivers not just style, but overwhelming presence and effortless power. That expectation is what naturally pulls attention toward the next machine, a bike that does not just make a statement when it is parked, but redefines what power feels like the moment it moves. Number 2. Suzuki Hayabusa. When it first appeared in the late 1990s, this machine did not just compete, it dominated. It pushed past 186 miles per hour and forced the entire industry into a quiet agreement to stop the speed war. That alone tells you what kind of impact this motorcycle had. But here is the truth most people miss. The Hayabusa did not stay relevant because it was fast. It stayed relevant because it became complete. At its heart is a 1,340 cubic centimeter inline 4, producing around 187 horsepower and roughly 110 pound-feet of torque. But unlike high-strung superbikes, this power feels effortless. Roll the throttle at highway speed, and it surges forward without drama, smooth, controlled, and incredibly stable. And that stability is no accident. Suzuki refined the aerodynamics over decades, shaping the body to reduce lift and increase confidence at speed. The latest generation adds a full electronics suite, ride modes, traction control, launch control, cruise control, and a bi-directional quick shifter, all working together to make extreme performance feel accessible. Now let us talk value. New, the Hayabusa sits around $18,000 to $19,000. On the used market, you will see everything from early models near $5,000 to newer versions pushing $16,000 or more. That spread reflects something important. This bike spans generations, and each one still holds relevance. Compared to rivals like the Kawasaki ZX-14R, the Hayabusa feels more refined, more planted, and easier to live with long-term. Owners say it best, it never feels stressed, no matter how fast you go. That is rare, because this is not just a machine built for speed, it is built for trust at speed. Do you like this breakdown? Hit that like button, and if you want to support us even more, become a member and get early access to the next videos. The Hayabusa is a legend for a reason. Massive power, unmatched stability, and a reputation built over decades. It represents the peak of Suzuki old-school engineering dominance. But even legends carry weight, literally and figuratively. It is big, it is heavy, and for newer riders, it can feel like too much of a commitment. And that reality opens the door to a different kind of demand. Not for more power, but for smarter balance. That is where the industry starts pushing riders toward the next answer. A machine designed to feel lighter, more accessible, and easier to live with. But that shift comes with a question we cannot ignore. Number 1, Suzuki GSX-8S. To take the top spot on a list like this, a motorcycle has to do more than impress. It has to change direction, and that is exactly what the GSX-8S represents. For years, Suzuki built incredible machines, but often stood still while others evolved. This bike is the moment they moved again. Not with nostalgia, not with small updates, but with a completely new foundation. At its core is a 776 cubic centimeter parallel twin, producing around 84 horsepower and roughly 57 pound-feet of torque. But like every great Suzuki, the numbers do not tell the full story. The power delivery is strong down low, smooth through the mid-range, and responsive when you need it. It feels natural, whether you are commuting through traffic or pushing into corners on a weekend ride. And then comes the technology. A 270-degree crank gives the engine a deeper, more connected feel. You get ride-by-wire throttle, traction control, selectable power modes, and a bi-directional quickshifter, all working seamlessly. This is not Suzuki catching up. This is Suzuki competing again. Now let us talk price. Brand new, it lands right around $9,000. Lightly used models sit between $7,000 and $8,000. That positioning is critical. It undercuts many European rivals while offering more modern features than bikes like the Yamaha MT-07. Owners say it best, Suzuki finally built something that feels current, comfortable upright. Ergonomics, stable handling, and confidence you feel immediately. It works for new riders, but it does not bore experienced ones. And that is why it sits at number 1. Because this bike is not just good, it is important. It proves Suzuki still knows how to build the future. And every legend on this list led right here. If this video changed the way you look at new versus old, then the next one is going to take that even further. Hit the next video and keep the ride going. Subscribe if you want to stay ahead of the market, not behind it. And if you are serious about supporting the channel, check out membership for early access.